Milford, Pennsylvania, to bring you back to that news with Governor Cuomo. We do have Brian Yennis with us in New York City. Brian, I have a couple questions for you. We were just playing out the remarks from Cuomo at his briefing earlier this morning. When I was talking to you yesterday, we were saying that we hadn't really heard from him at all. So what do you think of these remarks, and what's going to be next for the New York governor?
Yeah, Daytona, so he was contrite and seemingly emotional when he spoke today, apologizing. He said the word apology more than a dozen times, apologizing amid these sexual harassment allegations from 3 women. He said he acted in a way that made people feel uncomfortable. It was unintentional, and I truly deeply apologize for it. His apology was really centered on, I wish I had known that it made them uncomfortable, in other words, and I would have not done that, and I'm really sorry that they felt that way and that I caused any pain. That was what the governor said today. It was interesting to note that he started his comments by saying that his lawyer told him not to speak today, and he also said that he's a lawyer himself, and yet he wanted to speak to New Yorkers directly. He said that he's not going to resign. I don't think anybody really believed that he would, knowing his personality and also knowing that Democrats control the state legislature. And then I think the final point here is that he said ultimately that he wants New Yorkers to be patient. The Attorney General report will come out, an independent investigation run by an independent law firm. They'll release their findings in a report, and he wants New Yorkers to kind of hold judgment until that report comes out. So that's the takeaway here. He didn't get into naming any of the 3 women, Lindsay Boylan, Charlotte Bennett, or Anna Ruck, that are accusing him of this kind of misconduct. But in an indirect and general way, he did address some of their allegations. He says he's never touched anybody inappropriately and so on. So interesting and kind of a remarkable press conference. I've never heard the governor apologize so often. And frankly, he did not apologize. He has yet to personally apologize for the nursing home scandal, in which many people believe that the governor's own policies may have led to unnecessary deaths. And he didn't talk about the nursing home scandal today at all. And we have yet to hear him apologize for the nursing home situation, like we did hear him apologize today. Daytona.
Yeah, no, I found that really interesting, too. Going back to him saying, hey, let the Attorney General do a review. That's when the facts will come out. But he did kind of bring up those allegations, denying that he touched anyone inappropriately. So, I mean, is that kind of conflicting right there? Because he's still taking a stance to a point.
Yeah, he didn't say any of their names, but he did actually, in an indirect way, address the allegations. He said he never touched anybody, which is what Lindsay Boylan, his former aide, said. He kissed her. He said that he didn't mean to make somebody feel uncomfortable, and Charlotte Bennett is accusing him of making inappropriate sexual remarks that made her feel highly uncomfortable. And then he says that it's just part of his demeanor to touch people and to be that way, sort of like the Italian demeanor. And I think that does address the photo that made it into the New York Times, in which you see the governor reportedly holding on to, touching Anna Ruck's face at a 2019 wedding. And she says that he asked her if he could kiss her. So in an indirect way, he directly talked about the allegations. But it was actually very lawyerly, right, in that sense. And he is a lawyer, as he said.
Yes. So what's next? What can we be keeping our eyes on? Because every single day it seems to be there's more developments. I mean, he spoke today, so are his daily briefings going to be back on? Are we going to see him again tomorrow?
Yeah, that's a great question. We usually don't see him on Thursdays. If he does do another briefing, it would be probably on Friday. And it'll be interesting to see if he thinks he can keep it up again, to sort of go as business as usual, despite growing calls from state lawmakers for him to resign. I think that number is now at least 21. Now, look, I think on top of that, it's waiting to see if there's going to be another accuser. He was asked whether or not there would be. He didn't answer that question. And then I think the third thing to watch here is when ultimately that report will be made public and what the Attorney General finds. Because at that point, as Mayor Bill de Blasio has said, if the allegations prove to be true, then he cannot govern. And I think the tide will turn and the opinions will turn based on that report.
And we've already seen some rolling back of, his emergency powers, his statewide directives, the ability to govern the state of New York. Is that going to be taken one step further as more keeps coming out and this keeps being a national headline, quite frankly?
Yeah, it's fascinating because it's very New York politics, but you're right. I mean, Cuomo had temporary emergency pandemic powers that gave him extraordinary authority to govern New York's COVID-19 response. And Democrats finally, after a lot of pressure, decided to roll some of that back. But ultimately, when you read, they're supposed to vote on a bill that will do that probably Friday or Monday. But Republicans are looking at this bill and saying ultimately he still retains a lot of that power. And, he ultimately has to tell Democrats and inform them and give them a heads up and allow them to comment and to say what they have to say about it. But the Republicans are saying ultimately it doesn't have enough teeth. It's going to still allow him to govern the way he's been governing, which has been through executive fiat to make the decisions about how New York is going to respond to COVID-19. So we'll see.
Yeah, a lot to follow here. Brian, you've been following it the entire time. Anything in particular that you're going to be looking for this week?
Yeah, I think the next thing for us is there are two big scandals here. The nursing home situation is a big one. Did his administration purposely cover up death data for political gain? Did they keep it away from the DOJ? There is reportedly an ongoing investigation about that, and I think that it's important for us on the reporting end to focus our energy and on that as well. More than 15,000 people died, and I think there are a lot of questions as to whether or not more could have been done, should have been done, and whether or not he will apologize the way he apologized today for that.
Yeah, definitely a storyline that's taken the sideline lately, but we'll be following it all here on News Now from Fox, and I'm sure you'll be following it from the ground. Brian, thanks for joining us here on News Now. We'll talk to you soon.
Take care. Thank you, Daytona.
And moving forward here with other governors, we had to cut into Governor Newsom and his press conference out there in Long Beach at a vaccination site that's gearing its efforts towards vaccinating educators in the state of California. Plus, we showed you that scrapped SpaceX launch a little bit. It was aborted a few hours ago. Well, in the next hour or so, we're going to be bringing that to you. Hopefully it goes through again. SpaceX Starship launch coming out of Texas in Boca Chica. We'll bring it to you live here on News Now from Fox. I'll be sending some of you off to a quick 2-minute commercial break. When you come back, the latest out of California.